Sorry. Now, it is very important for the safety of you and the safety of these animals that everybody remains seated at all times, keeping those hands, arms, legs, and feet inside the safari vehicle. But as we wait to get into the reserve, right now is a really good time to put those phones or cameras in any sport mode or any live mode, because these really are real animals and they really are always moving around. So putting your phone or camera on live or sport mode is a really great way to get a really great photo.
Live on here?
What? What do you mean? The live photo?
Alrighty, it is
Alrighty, how do you
almost
turn
our
on?
turn. So a lot of these animals out here do utilize their incredible camouflage to stay hidden away from any potential predators. So we'll look towards those shaded areas or any bushy areas as well where they could be hanging out. Now a lot of these animals are pretty shy and they do rely on their hearing to remain hidden from any predators. So if there's ever an extra shy animal, I'll be lowering my voice just a little bit in hopes that we don't scare them away, because the quieter that we are, the closer they may get. Alrighty, but our first stop today is in the Little Ituri Forest, home to those animals with some really great camouflage. So great, in fact, they could probably be standing right next to us, and we may not even see them. Oh, but on the right-hand side immediately is the iconic okapi. Now this okapi might look like it's part zebra due to those striped legs, but they're actually more closely related to the giraffe, and that's due to their very similar skeletal structures. Those striped legs just allow them to remain hidden during the daytime. As you can see with the sun shining through these leaves, it's creating a black and white striped shadow pattern across the ground. And that's kind of the same way this okapi stays hidden. Another incredible way is actually by their hooves. Those hooves have scent glands at the bottom of them, so they can leave false scent trails throughout the forest to kind of lead predators on a wild okapi chase. Now you may notice their tongue. The tongue is about 16 inches long and it's called a prehensile tongue, which means to grab and grip. Now that tongue is pretty impressive as well, very helpful, helps them eat, but it also helps them clean their own eyeballs as well as their ears. Now straight ahead on the right hand side is the greater kudu. Now I'm able to tell that this is a female greater kudu due to the fact that she does not have 6-foot long horns coming from the top of their head. All the male greater kudu do. Now they are also known as the gray ghost of the forest. Oh, but over on the left hand side is the black rhinoceros.
No way.
Now,
Oh my
you get a
goodness.
really great view of this rhino. Now, I told you about prehensile tongues. Well, he has a prehensile upper lip, which means to grab and grip as well, and it's more of a pointed V shape. Now, once fully grown, that black rhinoceros will weigh about 3,000 pounds, making them one of the smaller species of rhino out there. Now, over here on the right-hand side is the beautiful bongo. Now this bongo is nicknamed the ghost of the forest, and that's because for the longest time, people didn't even believe that the bongo existed. So the fact that we're so close to so many of them is a really good luck charm. Now those spiral horns that you see on their heads, whenever they want to try to move swiftly throughout that underbrush, what they'll do is they'll lay their horns flatly against their back, and it creates this beautiful texture that allows them to be able to move swiftly and efficiently throughout that underbrush. But as we travel deeper into our safari, I'd like to show you this animal spotting guide above your head. This animal spotting guide is an incredible tool to kind of use throughout our safari. It'll give you a good idea of what might be out there. Now we might not be able to find all of those animals today, but I do have some pretty good luck. Squirrel! But we have made it to the Safi River, and what a treat this is. There's some Nile hippopotamus on land. And it looks like they're hanging out with some pink-backed pelicans. Now these pink-backed pelicans get their name because during mating season, their skin will actually turn a light pink color to attract potential mates. It's almost like how whenever humans see their crush, they blush a little bit. And these Nile hippopotamus, a group of them is called a bloat, and as you can see on the left hand side, they'll spend the majority of their time in the water, and that's because they have very sensitive skin, so this water kind of helps protect them from the sun's harmful rays. Now these hippos can hold their breath for about 8 minutes at a time. And you might think that they love to swim, but they actually just prefer to sink to the bottom of that river floor and kind of walk across it. It's a lot easier for them to travel that way. Now they can actually run about 15 miles per hour across that river floor and about 30 miles per hour running on land.
In the water?
They were not kidding when they called them some hungry, hungry hippos, because each and every day they consume about 90 pounds of food. Oh, but crikey, one of my favorite animals on the left-hand side, the Nile crocodile. Now this Nile crocodile does have a jaw pressure of about 4,000 pounds per square inch, making it one of the mightiest jaw pressures in all of the animal kingdom. Now this Nile crocodile can grow to be about 16 to 20 feet long, which means if they could stand on the tips of their tails, they could look some giraffes in the eyes. Now I know a lot of people believe that a crocodile is just vicious and scary, but they're actually just territorial and extremely loving and protecting over their babies. For example, crocodiles lay eggs, and when the time comes, those mothers and fathers will put those eggs inside their jaws to protect them, but also to massage them and move them around a little bit to encourage that baby hatchling to emerge from their shells. But we have made it to the savannah. And I always like to show off this tree on the right-hand side. That tree is known as the baobab tree, and it's extremely important to the ecosystem out here. And I know it might look a little weird and like it's upside down because there's no leaves on it, but that's just because 9 months out of the year, this baobab tree allocates all of its energy to storing water inside of its trunk. Now this trunk has a spongy-like texture, so it holds onto water extremely well. And the animals out here, they know this. They know during those hot savanna summer days, they can go up to that baobab tree, take a bite out of it, and get rehydrated. And that's why this tree also earns the nickname, the Tree of Life. Oh, but what a treat this is. This is my favorite animal over on the right-hand side. Those are the wildebeest. Now, if we get a little bit closer to some more, pay attention to their eyes. They're just absolutely gorgeous. And they're also perfectly positioned to allow them to see the ground that they're grazing, while also allowing them to be able to see us. Now our group of wildebeest is called a confusion, and this confusion can travel in herds of hundreds of thousands, and even have been reported traveling in herds of 1.5 million at a time. Now what's really cool is that during their stampedes, they can kick up so much dust and dirt that it can create a dust cloud so large, you can see it all the way from outer space. Oh, and over on the left-hand side, we get to see some African painted dogs in action. Now, these African painted dogs are extremely successful hunters, and they're successful up to about 90% of the time. And the reason they're so successful, well, that's because they really understand and value the importance of working together as a team to accomplish a common goal. Now, they have a variation of communication patterns. They either run in circles, bark at each other, or use their sneezes to convey a message. Now over on the right-hand side, that is the Ankole cattle, that animal with those huge horns. But also over on the left-hand side, those are the sable antelopes. Now these sable antelopes are the symbol of the Harambe Wildlife Reserve, and that's through their resiliency. Whenever they're faced with a problem, a threat, or a challenge, instead of backing down and running away, they prefer to stand their ground and stick up for themselves, which I think is a really great reminder that we should also be sticking up for these animals. Because unfortunately, a majority of these animals that we're seeing throughout our safari are going through what's called a silent extinction, which means that they're going extinct right under our noses. So it's very important for us to work together as a team to help these animals out so we can keep them around for future generations. But these Ankole cattle, animals with those huge horns, might look pretty heavy and annoying, but they're actually fairly lightweight. That's because the interior of those horns is a honeycomb-like structure. Also inside those horns are some blood vessels. So the blood will actually pump up to the tip of those horns, and once it comes traveling back down, that blood will be cooled off, thus cooling off the whole entire Ankole cow. I do see that dazzle in the distance, a group of Hartman mountain zebras.
Oh, that's cool.
Now once we get a little bit closer, pay attention to their stripes. As you see, those stripes towards their hind legs grow a little bit wider. And that's actually what helps us differentiate what type of zebra species that they are. Now within the first 20 minutes of a baby zebra's life, they do what's called imprinting, where they memorize their mother's stripes so that they never lose her or mix her up in the wild. All of these hiding out over there, really great camouflage. Now, just like how humans have our own completely unique fingerprints, zebras have their own completely unique stripes, and that no two are ever alike. And these are the Maasai giraffe, the world's tallest animals, growing to be about 20 feet tall once fully grown. And their babies are about 6 feet tall once first born. Now you may notice their tongue, like I mentioned before, the prehensile tongue. It's a darkish bluish, blackish, purplish color. It makes you grab and grip. Now what's really cool is that if you look at your grown-up's forearms, from their fingertips to their elbows, that's roughly how long that giraffe's tongue is. Yeah, that gazelle thing, that is an antelope species known as the springbok. They kind of look like a little Savannah s'more, and they actually smell as sweet as they look. During mating season, they emit a pheromone so sweet, kind of resembles cotton candy. Also one of the top 3 fastest runners in the wild, running at speeds of about 55 miles per hour. And they'll actually couple their runs with jumps, and it's called pronking. P-R-O-N-K-I-N-G. Pronking. That pronking can be about 6 feet high and about 13 feet in length in one single jump. Let's keep on rolling and see what else we can find. Now it does seem like there are a whole bunch of trees knocked down in this area. So if I had to guess, we could be starting to approach some more elephant country. So we'll have to see what we're able to find out here. Now elephants do have some pretty sensitive skin, so we'll look towards those tree lines or any watering holes where they could be hanging out around. Not quite yet. But they especially love to hang out near those watering holes because they have that sensitive skin. And what they'll do is they'll actually use their trunks to help them out. That trunk has the ability to hold about 7 liters of water inside of it. So they'll use that 7 liters of water to spray all over their backs, and they'll get some mud or dirt to fling on them as well to kind of act as a nice natural sunblock. Now that trunk is really incredible. That trunk has about 40,000 muscles inside of it. That's 40,000 muscles in that trunk alone, which is about 40 times the amount of muscles that we have in our whole entire bodies, making that trunk strong enough to be able to knock down a tree, but also delicate enough to be able to pick up a coin or a berry on the ground easily. Oh, this is a really great sight. There's some tusk marks in that red clay, and looks like the parade isn't too far away.
Holy cow.
Now these elephants, they love to use their tusks for a whole bunch of reasons. Let's see if we can get a little bit closer. They love to use their tusks for a whole bunch of reasons, but they especially love it to dig into that red clay so they can consume it. Since that red clay is packed full of a whole bunch of essential vitamins and minerals, when they consume it, it's kind of like them taking their own personal multivitamin each and every day. Now, just like us being left-handed or right-handed, these elephants can be left-tusked or right-tusked. So one tusk is always just a little bit more worn than the other. Now, these tusks are made up of ivory, which unfortunately is very valuable on the black market. So that kind of inspires a whole bunch of people known as poachers to go out and hunt these animals down so they can steal their tusks away from them. And by doing this, it's leaving these elephants extremely vulnerable and at risk, dwindling their populations. So it's very important to remember, whenever we are purchasing products for our homes, we aren't purchasing anything that's made up of ivory or anything that comes from endangering an already endangered species like the elephant. Now, a quote from Steve Irwin that I really admire is that we do not own the earth, we belong to it, so we must protect our wildlife. So making those sustainable choices whenever possible and keeping up with some local and global conservation efforts is really essential to helping these animals out. But I am hearing some chirps up ahead.
Oh,
Looks like it's coming from some greater flamingos. And if I have any hidden Mickey fans on board with me today, That island looks quite suspicious. Now, these greater flamingos are the lightest shade of pink of the flamingo family, and they're also what's known as a filter feeder, which means that they use their beaks to go back and forth throughout that water to capture up any brine shrimp or anything that is high in beta carotene. Now, this beta carotene is what gives them their pink coloration. Now, once fully grown, they'll be about 5 to 9 pounds each, and a group of them is called a flamboyance. But right over here is just my favorite view of the sand.